to watch the 76ers versus the Celtics. That's number one. But I'm on Joel Embiid's side right now because he's been playing phenomenal. But the start of the game, he established himself in the paint. He established himself. He was dominant in the paint. And look, a lot of those calls were fouls. They were fouls. He did a great job of mixing it up from shooting his 1-2 dribble pull-ups, stretching the floor, shooting the three. And then when the times got tough, he went down to the low block and he got to the free throw line. Look, Marcus Smart, I get it, right? We all flop. We know you're a flopper. You're my boy. But Joel was not flopping last night. He was just imposing his will. That's it.
I agree with Perk in this sense. Philly, Boston, one of the great rivalries in sports. Marcus Smart and Joel Embiid, this is not the first time they've gone at it verbally or physically. I love this. I love when these two teams are both good. I love it when they hate each other. As far as whose side I'm on the side of the basketball gods, and the basketball gods are on the side of justice. They don't like flopping or flailing or any of this, and they look down on this kind of behavior. Now, look, Marcus Smart can say what he wants. I remember a game against Houston where he drew 2 straight offensive fouls on James Harden on out-of-bounds plays, baselines out-of-bounds plays. Marcus Smart is familiar with the dark arts, just like Joel Embiid is familiar with the dark arts. But the basketball gods are watching. Be careful.
They are watching, just like the bobbleheads over your shoulder.
Rachel, this is how we know that Zach Lowe been playing basketball at LA Fitness. What do you know about the basketball guards? That's a locker room talk right there. I knew you was hooping on the low, Zach.
I got a little bit.
Amazing. All right, guys, coming up, we're going to be talking about Colin Sexton's block on Kevin Durant last night. Woo! We put together the best little man blocks of all time. Muggsy Bogues iced that game last night. Perk, is there anything D. Rose could have done defensively? This was beautiful.
No, it's nothing he could. The only thing you could do is trap him when he come past half court. There's nothing you could do when Trae Young gets hot.
I think you start screaming at him, just screaming incoherently right in his face and see what happens.
It could work. There's worse strategies to try. I'm all for it, Zach Lowe. Welcome to The Jump. I am Rachel Nichols, joined indeed by our 2008 NBA champ, Kendrick Perkins, and our senior writer, host of the Low Post podcast, Zach Lowe. Guys, coming up, Joel Embiid dropped 42. Got to the free throw line 21 times in a win over the Celtics last night, but you're going to want to hear what Marcus Smart had to say about that after the game and Embiid's response. There's some good stuff in there. First, though, when the Cavaliers traded away Kyrie Irving a little more than 3 years ago, they did not exactly secure a bonanza in return. Forget what, say, Oklahoma City got for trading away Paul George. In fact, forget what Oklahoma City got for trading away Russell Westbrook to Houston. The Cavs got 2 players who aren't in the league anymore, plus Jay Crowder, who now plays in Phoenix, and the rights to a single draft pick, what would end up being the number 8 slot in 2018. LeBron would later say the Kyrie trade also cost Cleveland, well, him. That as soon as that deal was made, it was, quote, the beginning of the end for everything. All of which is to say, that is a lot of pressure to put on the player who would become that number 8 pick, Colin Sexton. And for large stretches of the past couple seasons, Sexton has looked, well, much like you would expect. A promising kid who was allergic to passing on a rebuilding team with a revolving door of teammates and coaches. J.B. Bickerstaff is, in fact, Sexton's 4th coach in 3 seasons. Which is crazy. And honestly, until last night, there were plenty of casual NBA fans who, if they knew Sexton existed at all, it was because of the nickname that's been given to the Cavs backcourt. Oh yes, it's Zach Lowe's favorite NBA phrase right now, Sexland.
Sexland.
Boom. You know, Colin Sexton, teammate Darius Garland, Sexland. Get it? Zach does. Anyway, while the Cavs have already made remarkable strides under Bickerstaff, it certainly would have been understandable for anyone looking at last night's schedule to see Nets-Cavs on the docket and think Cleveland was going to serve as little more than a speed bump for the 1,000-horsepower monster that is Brooklyn's new Big Three. This was Kyrie's first game playing alongside Kevin Durant and James Harden, and also Kyrie's only his second time back in Cleveland since the Cavaliers traded him. In fact, Kyrie's return was a big enough deal, the Cavs played a tribute video for him, to which Kai responded by smiling at the fans, showing off his ring finger. Bottom line, everything was set up for a coronation. And it sure looked like one when the Nets stormed out of the gate, knocking down 10 straight shots to open the game, including that beauty Kyrie does, well, that. Defensively for the Nets, though, yeah, not so much. The Cavs had come into the game with the NBA's worst offensive rating, yet against Brooklyn, they shot 50% from three, scored 64 points in the paint. They had 7 players in double figures as the game pushed into double overtime. And Sexton in particular was a monster, finishing with 42. There was a stretch of 1 minute and 30 seconds of game time in which he'd score 11 all on his own, taking and making 3 contested three-pointers. Sexton would finish with 15 points in the second overtime, pushing the Cavs to the win and sending the Nets into some post-game introspection.
We had breakdowns all over the place, so we got a lot of work to do. I think we know that. We know that we have a very offensive team right now, so we have to find ways to defend, to get connected, to be on the same page, and that's going to take some time.
It's learning from your mistakes, learning from the losses, and not making the same mistakes 2 times in a row. So, we got a long way to go, but I think we're in the right direction, and we got some film to watch. And defensively, we got to be a lot better. And offensively, I think we still had 135 points. So, just correct some things on our switching and our defensive principles.
I do think the Nets can correct some things and figure it out, and this game can be a building block for them. But it was also a building block for Cleveland, who would welcome a return to even the bottom of the East playoff bracket after what's been happening there the past few seasons. And for Sexton, whose career started in the nearly impossible position of having to balance out a trade that sent out Kyrie Irving and chased away LeBron James, it was a chance to make more of his own mark, a lights-out performance on a national stage. And for one night, that was enough. So, Perk, we look at the big 3 for the Nets. I just talked about what happened with them defensively. Now, offensively, they combined for 96 points. Were you encouraged or discouraged from what you saw from the Nets' big 3, Perk?
Well, I was discouraged, Rachel. And look, you remember on social media when James Harden gave Lil Baby 100 honey buns? Well, guess what? Colin Sexton gave them 42 honey buns last night, and everybody else in the league been giving them honey buns. Listen, offensively, they'll figure things out. Steve Nash and Mike D'Antoni, they're offensive-minded coaches. I get that. But defensively, they have 0 excuses. This is not a young ball club. This is a veteran team. You got 2 champions on there, Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving. So with that being said, these guys should know how to come together collectively and figure things out. It's all about effort. It's not about schemes. And last night, what I was watching was they was just saying, you know what? We're going to outscore you. That's how we're going to beat you. And Rachel, you and Zach both know that in order to win a championship, you have...
We got to give people a reason to watch.
Amazing. All right, guys, let's move on to the Sixers. Who knew we were going to start the jump with that today? Joel Embiid, let's talk about him, dropping 42 points in the Sixers win over the Celtics last night. This was a fun game to watch. He shot 21 free throws himself compared to 20 for the Celtics as a team. You know who wasn't happy about it? Marcus Smart. Listen to the two of them after the game.
We got our hands up a lot of the times, and, he flails and he gets the call. And then down on the other end, we got our guys attacking the rim, getting a lot of contact, and we're just not getting the whistle. It's tough to play like that, and it's tough. I mean, if the roles are reversed, I do it every time. I mean, I'll be on too. If every time I threw my arms up or every time I got touched, I'm going to the free throw line. I mean, it's kind of hard not to get into a rhythm that way when you shoot 21 free throws alone, and they allow you to hack on the other end.
Marcus Smart just told me that I flail a lot. Come on. I'm sure he knows himself and he knows his game too. He does a lot of that. And I don't think I do. The game is physical. Other teams tend to try to be extra physical against me. And I guess I'm just smarter than everybody else. I just take advantage of it.
Marcus Smart and Joel Embiid arguing about flopping, Perk. Which side are you on?
Look, this first of all, Rachel, I love it. I love it. No more of this buddy ball. Listen, go at each other. I love the beef. I will.